Say action. Action. These pine trees right here, what we're going to do is like come in there with some nice green. Try to get similar colors to what he has already established. And see if they kind of sneak in there. That's pretty close. So this brush is not really great for this. But what we want to avoid is lines. So you don't, right here we have a lot of lines. These are more looking like patches. We'll vary the contrast. It's going to go like lighter down here maybe. Maybe a little more yellow. Vertical strokes, kind of like loose grass, more or less. And over here, so these aren't trees. These are just like where the trees are going to be. Yellow, black. Could start even a little darker. And right now, blur them out. So the bottom right here is not good. You want that to be a little bit softer. And have the tips of the trees a little more pointy. So here, blurring out a little patch here. But then you don't leave that just right there. So what I'm going to do is come over here, do another patch of pine trees. Well, blurry blobs. Add a little more yellow, color change again. And right now, these don't look like trees. But it won't take much to make them look like trees once I get like some of the smaller details in there. So the change in the color really helps. And then the big strokes, color changes proves to everybody you're not doing like a systematic approach. What you don't want to have is like rows of something. Doing little tiny trees here. I'll add maybe a little bit of a tint, a little more of a lighter green. Do that back here where it overlaps the dark part. This brush just has like really dry, crackly brushes. Oh, Ladybug, can you find me a nice, smooth, new-looking bright brush for my pine trees over here? Ladybug, calling Ladybug. Do you copy? All right, so then I'll do some more green. Tap that in. But now my texture is going to get a little bit bigger. Not like a lot bigger, but a little bit. And back here, they're just going to blur out and fade into this. You won't even see them. So fade these out. That's probably a little too distinct. Blur them out. More contrast as you get closer up. Greens will change as well. I'll do a little more yellow-green based on this. Vertical strokes. Yeah, a small braid. But one with like a flat tip on it. It's kind of like a hamster tied to a stick. Okay, so now I got a little bit of texture going on there. I'll go in, I'll define some of those, but not all of them. Ooh, nice. I'll take it. Oh, it's still pretty fuzzy. So what? Yeah, so you can find one that's really skinny, like a little blade. Yeah, these are like large oak tree brushes. I'm trying to do skinny little pine trees. Dang it. All right, so that could be like that level right there. Background, I could even have like darker ones separated. So instead of like one field that goes back gradually, I could have a little bit darker here and have it come up closer. And I'll do back here. I'll do black, green, yellow. And this will be like a lot of dark, so it's only going to show up after I put highlights on there. That's what I was talking about. Give me that thing. Now I got my tree brush. Oh, it looked good. All right, well, at least it's pretty straight. All right, in the background here, I'm going to come in here with the dark green. So this is just black and green on the base to get like contrast. I want that shell to stand out quite a bit. So I'm getting that in there. Blues, greens, different heights. I'll keep this pretty dark on the bottom so the foreground tree shows up. I'll cut in like a clean line horizontally, but then trade it out before the vertical strokes. Get that crack-a-lackin'. All right, so now we have the basics of it. Those trees look terrible on purpose. It's this brush right here. Now we go in there and we'll make up the good brush, or the good trees, the small round brush. And these, you don't have to do that many of them to make people think the whole thing's it's like leaves and trees. So with here, I'll do a green. Make sure the trees are more vertical. So watch this, I'll do like a dark one. If you're doing a dark one, put that in like the light area. So I'll do like a little dark one here. Little cute guy. blur it out a little bit so they don't expect to see like all of them. I'll do more of a green one, a smaller one over here. I'm adding into the blurry pieces, so I'll add like a decent looking tree on top of the really bad blurry ones. And back here, there's gonna be like little tiny sticks. So I'll come in here. Right now they're like little round blobs, so I gotta trade that for some of the little skinny guys. Skinny guys, then skip over here, don't go left to right, otherwise you might go, ooh, I added too many trees. This way you can kind of like sneak up on it. You go like, oh, that's almost it. You'll cut more trees, back up, take a look at it. You can start to see like the depth going on with those crappy trees. And once again, you don't need that many good trees to make the whole people think that the whole thing's good. I'll go in here. Maybe I'll make a lighter tree now, like a little bit more of a lime green kind of thing. Add some white to it, tint. Do some highlights on some of those guys. Oh, that's kind of a cute little tree. And not too detailed. So if you get one that's too detailed, take your finger and just kind of tap it out until it blurs. The blurring effect is really important. Otherwise, if you have these like distinct ones and no blurry ones, and people are going to think, why didn't they show all the trees? Were they lazy? You want it to look like the person's eyes that are looking at this are just a little bit blurred and they can't really understand what's happening. We're trying to confuse them, basically. Over here, now these are going to be a little bit bigger. That's going to show scale, and that's getting closer to us. Okay. I'm glad this coronavirus is over. It's hard to breathe in this thing. So I'm doing bigger trees. I'll have some of these trees overlap all that, so even though I did all those, I'm going to cover them for the most part. I'll go like black and green. Nice dark base. I'll start with like a skinny little line like that. I'll start with a skinny line, and with the little dots on the side, I'll scumble this. It's not a big tree, by the way. And I'll do asymmetrical patterns, which really isn't a pattern. So more on this side, less on the other one. Now the silhouette of that one's making those mediocre ones look good. And then I'll do some highlights on that one as well. Do another one over here. This is kind of a crappy area right here. So I'll start skinny. A little bit wider as it comes down, so it's a little bit taller. And once again, same process where I come in here. Scumble. I'm just doing like dots. And look at the shape of the tree. Once again, don't make the tree go like this, like a teepee. Those are always embarrassing. Pine trees, generally speaking, are going to be more, yeah, you might want to watch this too, for your trees in the background. And these are going to come over here. I'll fade it as it comes down, getting a little bit darker. All right, I'll fade that in there. There's a bunch of layers of like little tiny trees and like contrast and everything. All right, so now we got to pimp it out. So with this, break. Start with the trunk. See where it's going to go. Get about up to here. Skinny little line. Come down here. Over here, so now I'm establishing this is really large over the mediocre trees and even some of the good ones. Should have moved it over a little bit, but that's okay. It's not my project. They'll never know. I'm gonna start too dark, and I'll lighten up with highlights. Right here, maybe you can go like solid black. Contrast, I'm gonna go like almost solid black right here. And these, you have to spend more time on this because this is in a high contrast zone. So man, this kind of weep down here a little bit. So these trees should take you quite a while to paint. This is my project. I'd probably spend like 20 minutes on this tree. Maybe 10. Magic show, and this is not my project. So I'll give it like maybe 3 minutes. All right, so you can see I'm watching out for the patterns, which I don't have any yet. And everybody loves the patterns, no matter like how long you've been painting. Me included. So it's like, I'm all random. And you step back and you're like, oh crap, I just made a bunch of patterns. You have to go back in and fix it. Which it is always fixable. You just add some more somewhere else. I'll leave a bald spot right there. All right, so this is kind of a feature tree because it's going to be one of the bigger ones. So now we need highlights and more imperfections. So that could be kind of it. However, I don't like how it's all kind of patterned, so I'm gonna like fill in some of these areas a little bit. Fill in that one. So it's not so splotchy. Little solid base there. I'll get rid of that little light. But I'm sneaking up on it, so I'm not doing the whole thing. So it's kind of like you look at it and then look like, why don't you like it? And I go, well, I don't like it. It says too many hard edge negative spaces. And you just take watery glaze and go over them. Okay. Now we got medium, closer up, and then these trees look better now since, the good guys are. All right, so now I'm going to go a little bit of a highlight. Yellow, permanent green, a lot of yellow. Maybe some yellow ochre, sure, and white. Now with these, I'm going to come in here, I'll be going kind of cascading off this thing. And I'm going to go a little bit more water so it's not so opaque. These are kind of like little glazes. And I should start with like a medium highlight. I don't think I will. So I don't want to go like too bright on top of the dark. It's going to look like snow. Speaking of which, we have a snow show coming up. So I'm doing some highlights on there. A few of them. Blurry. I'll skip a little bit. Have one down here. Going all the way across. Come down here. Another one that goes all the way across here as well. Tippy tap taparoo. And like patches of highlights. Down here, it's going to get darker. Down here, and then I'll show you how to do the trunk, which is kind of cool. The trunk's one of my favorite parts, except for the dead twigs. I like those. Those are kind of cute. All right, then I'll like tap it, blur it out. So it's not as detailed down there on the bottom, so it doesn't take away from the shelf. Okay, now, trunks. You're going to be able to see some of them. I'm going to take a little brown, browny gray, and white. I'll make it lighter so it shows up. And then here, like in the dark area, you can do like a little line that'll represent like the tree in the dark areas because you can see through it. So like right here, watch this. See that? I'll do another one right here. Bam. And down here, shabow. This little trunk that goes through it. Can't see it all the way through, just the parts where it's really dark. All right, then the imperfections. This all work for one tree. Do like a little skinny branch right here, sticking out right there. So imperfect branches, show a little love. You don't need that many of these. Just a few of them. One more little twiglet right here. Oh, that's so adorable. Look at that little twig. All right, so that's it. That is the tree show. And cut.